Okay, once again, we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 21. Ya, whoever, yum,
yum,
whichever,
Tanu,
from a demigod,
form of a demigod,
Bhaktaha, devotees,
devotee,
Shradaya, with faith, Architum, to worship, Ichita, Ichati, desire,
Ashatasya,
to him,
to him,
Achalam, steady, Sharam, faith, Tam, that, Eva, surely, Vidadiham, Vidadani, give, Aham, I, Yo yam tanum bhakta,
yam tanum bhaktaha,
Shradaya chitam ichati,
chitam ichati,
Tasya tasya chalam shradam
Tasya chalam shradham.
Tamniva vadadhamiham.
Tameva vidadam meham.
We'll go directly to the translation. I am in everyone's heart as the supersoul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Please repeat. I am
I am
in everyone's heart
in everyone's heart
as the supersoul.
as the super soul.
As soon as one desires to worship some demigod,
As soon as one desires to worship some demigod,
I make his faith steady
I make his faith
his faith steady
so that he can devote
so that he
so
can
that he can
and devote
himself to a
Himself.
himself
to a particular deity.
to
to
that
that particular deity.
Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhu.
Jai Prabhupada.
God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as the Supersoul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facility to such person. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facility so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facility to living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusionary energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord, as Supreme Souls, does not give such facility, then there is no meaning of independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes, but his ultimate instruction we find is in the Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all together. One should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigod are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods as they are advised in the Vedic literature. As a person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastra, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod. And so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigod cannot infuse the living entity with such an entity, but because he is the Supreme Lord or the Super Soul, who is present in the hearts of all living entities. Krishna gives the impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literatures, it is stated, quote, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Supersoul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the supreme will. They are not independent. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Kaya Bhutale Srimati Shri Gaura Punisha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Kaya Bhutale Srimati Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Vani Pachani Say Satini Vani Tasta Om Gyanam Dharmam Hasya Gyana Jana Shavakya Chakru Mumanitam Asmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutane Swayam Vipakadam Dayam Tadati Swapatatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakavalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarvatatam Sadalikatam Sadhivam Sapkritam Sadhutam Vijanasam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padasahagana Shri Varita Shri Vatsapatatam Cha He Krishna Karun Sindho Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Sapta Kancha Gaurangir Radhe Vrindavanishwari Paradustate Harinam Hari Vanchaka Pakuru Vishcha Kripa Sindhu Devata Patitinam Bhadavya Yoga Vaishnava Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I want to thank everyone for allowing me to give class today and tolerating that I'm a little late. I apologize profusely. I don't know what I was reading, but as we're hearing already, Krishna, when you desire something to worship something other than Krishna, and I guess I was desiring to get online at 2 o'clock my time, at the time sequence all discombobulated. So we have yo yo yum yum tanum bhaktaha shradayar chitam chati tasya chalam shradam tam eva viranhidam. So it's very important, a couple of words in this particular sloka that really stand out to me. And that one is ichati, the desire. And we understand that because Krishna, as Prabhupada is explaining, that Krishna doesn't interfere with your desire. So, case in point, we all have our respective bodies that we occupy right now. And as much as we may be disturbed the way they look now, we actually desire to have them. So Krishna didn't interfere with that. This is part of our free will. Independence, as Prabhupada said. And is we can understand that independence is extremely minute. I always like, in my own particular realization, as we talk about freedom, freedom has a connection to independence. In other words, I'm free to do whatever I like. But as a result of being free to do whatever you like, we generally garner a reaction to our actions. And fortunately, or unfortunately, we don't have any control over the reaction. So that is the lesson that we're supposed to learn in our independence. So if we can eventually get catapulted to understanding how not to misuse our freedom or independence, then we can actually move in the category of having an action or reaction, which is neither negative or positive, or it doesn't fall into the realm of vikarma or karma. It falls in the category of akarma. In other words, it doesn't have a reaction that's material. So when you don't have a negative or positive reaction to karma, then you're actually free and you actually have exercised properly your independence. So there are other explanations that Prabhupada gives. One being that the demigods do not have the capacity to excuse you from some type of karmic reaction. Essentially, as Prabhupada is saying, all they can really do is facilitate. They're, for a sports analogy in basketball, they become a point guard. They just facilitate. But the ability relies in the person receiving the pass, or do they qualify for this particular type of reward, which is material. So that's something in itself. So if we look at the idea of ichati, desire, if we look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 77, we have Vindate Puruso Musma, Yat Yat Ichiti Asatvara, Matkita Gitat Sa Kritak Shresham Eka Valava. And the translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the dearmost objective of all auspicious benedictions. The human being who sings the song sung by me can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee, being fixed in the Lord's devotional service, can acquire whatever he wants from the Supreme Lord. Now, think about that. If Krishna is promising that benediction and saying it's the most auspicious, then why would we want to do anything other than that? Well, one reason is because we lack patience. The demigods can award some benediction on a quicker time frame. But again, they have to have the permission of the Supreme Lord in order to provide that benediction. So there is a type of vernacular that we use. We talk long money instead of fast money. We want something to last over a longer period of time. So this particular incident, because of our lack of impatience, we engaged in these juvenile or sophomoric or very, very immature requests, simply because we're either trying to get out of a state of misery or we're extremely greedy and envious. So due to this envy, I want what he has. He has such a nice estate. So what we see on a gross plane connected to the goddess Durga. We're in this prison house. And then we have certain people who are at certain levels of the prison. It's almost reminiscent to a Catholic model, how they do purgatory. And there's layers. So there are no lightweights in hell, right? It's just that their crimes are commensurate with their activity. So the heavier the crime, the heavier the medicine, you might want to call it, right? Because when we're getting heavy reactions, it's just simply medicine. We need more medicine, right? But we don't see reactions in terms of medicine. We don't see it as medicinal. We see it as someone else is blocking my opportunity to enjoy. And we know you cannot enjoy matter. It's just not possible. To really understand enjoyment, again, it's, I go back to the axiom, long money, right? Or better yet, eternal. It has to be eternal, right? So one would even ask the question, well, let's look at the gopis. Krishna leaves them for some duration of time, and they're feeling anxiety, they're feeling misery, they're feeling punished. So, but we have to understand that's not a material activity. Krishna specifically puts devotees in some type of anxiety. One for their purification, one to deepen their resolve for their love of God. And also the love of the external manifestation of God, which is Guru. Also the external manifestation of God that's present in the devotees, right? We are external manifestation. We're minute particles, but we also have the God atom. So if we want to go into physics, let's look at the God particle, as they talk about. We're that God particle. We're particles. Everything that we see in nature are particles of the Supreme Personality of God. But because we're blinded by our own illusion, right? We're ahankara vimudatma. We're encompassed or blinded by the material, and we're bewildered. So we don't see. So all we see, oh, woe is me. I have no money. I don't have a nice place to stay. I don't have this, I don't have that. But we signed up for that. We signed up for the level of poverty that we're in. And some people will say, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, your activities dictate your outcomes. So if I'm going to be nasty and belligerent, why would I be surprised if someone's acting nasty and belligerent toward me? I'm actually offering it up in the ether, and then it's got to come back, because we're God particle, and if we just examine our own body, our body's a universe, and then we have other living entities which are subordinate to our general activity. So we are the primary soul in this body, which there are other living entities in, that they're also souls. So they also agreed to be in this body with us, subordinate. So we likewise are in the larger landscape, in the body of the Supreme Lord. And while we're in that body, we're subordinate. So once the cells in the body are in accord with the primary soul, then there's harmony. But generally it works the opposite way. When the primary soul of the body is in harmony with the external energy in the universe and beyond, then there's harmony. So this is how we identify as sadhu. And sadhu, as Prabhupada defines it, as a sadhu is a Vaishnava, not these other categories. The whole language, the vernacular of the Vedas is really meant for Vaishnavas, although it accommodates those who are on track or may slightly mirror some of our activities. Like the tilak's different, is in a V shape, is a different color, right? And so we can still identify those people as sadhus. Just like in the teachings of Queen Kunti, I believe it's in the 17th chapter, Prabhupada remarks that the Christians and Muslims are also Vaishnava. Now that'll set you back a little bit. Wait, how is their Vaishnava? Well, because they do some pious activity. They go to church. He mentions that. Well, they go to temples, they go to mosques, they offer prayers, right? So we shouldn't look at them as not Vaishnavas, but there are circumstances where you would do that. Just like someone who in Bhakti Yoga, there are instances that person may not be exhibiting the character of a Vaishnava. So why is that? Well, that goes back to what Prabhupada says in this shloka, right? In the purport, he's saying we have independence. So even as a Vaishnava, we can I'm taking a day off today. I'm not being a Vaishnava, right? Right? I'm a Sura. This is my mindset today. So I'm going to say we got to give everybody a pass, because being inundated, covered by the waters of the material energy, we're struggling. But Krishna is so patient and he's so helpful. He's always sending us someone that's in a steady boat, who's a good captain, who could bring us on to shore. So we're going to have periods like that because it's purification. So the whole idea of Krishna, Bhoktaram Yadvyatapasham, Sarvaloka Maheshwara, Suridab Sarvabhutanam, Yaprabam Shittam Rechati. So this is the peace formula we have to apply to ourselves as well. See, the first order of business, how do I nature and nurture myself in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness? It's kind of like when you get on a plane and you have a miner with you, they tell you if there's an emergency, you put your mask on first. Because if you're not sound, you can't help the next person. So for devotees, the reason why we're in Krishna consciousness, because a lot of us say, I want to save the world. I want to help, but we don't know how to help. So we have to get trained in how to help. And the first part of training is you got to take care of yourself. So Krishna is telling them, look, whatever you want to, if you want to nurture yourself so that you can associate with me, then I will make your faith steady. Shraddha. I will make it steady. Okay? Then you can assist other souls in helping themselves. That's the relationship with Jesus. The business is we help ourselves so that we can help others help themselves. That's their choice. That's their independence. All we can do is lay the food on the table, and it's up to them. It's up to them if they want to consume. If they don't consume, then keep feeding yourself. Right? It's almost like being in a department store. There's so many variety of things. If there was only one item in the grocery store you wouldn't have very many customers. This is Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means variety. That variety or variegatedness is attractive. So when they come to the store, wow, here's something that I can use that will help me nurture and nature myself. So that's why we're all personality. We have a lot of things in common. We may chant, we may follow a process, but it is immensely individual how we express what we've learned. Because the importance is our specific realization. That's very important. So in this report, in the Srimad Bhagavatam that I mentioned, Prabhupada states, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 6:22, he says, if one can, well, let me read the same. Yam labdha chaparam labhyam manyate nadi kam tataha. If one can attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of God, he has nothing to aspire for, nor does he desire any other gain. So what does that really mean? I think we know, but we should state it. What it means, if I have everything, which is Krishna, why do I want these things which are separate from me? They're not connected. Well, you said, if I have Krishna, I have everything. Yeah. But everything belongs to Krishna, but we don't acknowledge it. That's what makes us cheating. We think this is separate, or we have a tendency to do this. We'll engage in, I'll do my devotional activities, but now it's my time. This is my time for nonsense, right? Everything belongs to Krishna. So even if the nonsense, if it's in the category of something that's authorized, just reconnect it again. Or the cure for an addict is Prabhupada says, he has to have a higher taste. If they don't have a higher engagement, you can tell them, don't do this. These are the do's and don'ts, right? Don't do this, do that. Don't stop here, go here. You have all these do's and don'ts. That's a yoga in itself. But if we remove, I need to stop drinking alcohol. I need to stop smoking cigarettes. I need to stop eating meat. Well, our philosophy is we're going to give you nice, sumptuous dishes that are cooked in ghee and some sweets, and then we have our own liquor, right? There's fruits and bananas and honey and unfermented. It has a nice taste. So once you get attached to those things, then the other addictions can drop off because you have higher taste. People wonder, how are these Hare Krishna devotees become so renounced from this past activities of illicit sex, drugs, and what have you, because they had a higher taste. So the other thing too, you have to be associating with those who also aspire for the higher taste. And third, we got to pray. I can tell you it works. If we pray, I'm really trying to resolve or rid myself of something. Help me do that. If you're sincere, this is what Krishna is saying. So he goes on to say, however, he says, when Dhruva Maharaj became perfect by austerity and saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he was offered any kind of benediction he wanted. Now, do we remember that Dhruva wanted a kingdom that rivaled his father and his great-grandfather, which is Lord Brahma? He wanted a kingdom. But as soon as he saw everything in front of him, what did he say? You know, he was aspiring for broken pieces of glass. And then he says, then I found you. He found Krishna. But he says, no. You did the austerity. I have to give you something. This is the thing, the contract with Krishna. Krishna won't cheat you. And at the same time, he'll cheat you. See, the way Krishna would have cheated Dhruva is that Dhruva accepted the benediction because Krishna held back himself because he was the most valuable thing. So when we accept things which are byproducts of Krishna that are often not conscious, right? Oh, I want a new, hoodie. The hoodie's not conscious. Well, this one is because it's got the holy name on it, right? So I'm trying to engage in things which are conscious. And that starts with me. Once I see the emblem, the efficacy of Krishna in all things, then those things become offerable. They become conscious. Because now we're seeing the presence of Krishna in those. It goes on to say, however, Dhruva replied that he did not want him, for he was perfectly satisfied with the benediction of seeing the Lord. And that's what we all aspire for. But our process is hearing, right? Shravana, right? Smarana, we want to remember. Kirtan, we want to evoke this sound vibration. So this is what our mission is. And so, just like Lord Brahma, is he sprouting from the navel of Narayan? He looks around. Well, he didn't have to. He's got 4 heads. He's looking this way, and back there, he's in all directions. He didn't see anything, so he goes into meditation for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, and then he hears. He's starting to get the lessons. So he's hearing first, and from that hearing, he creates. So through hearing, vision is created, not the other way around. You ever done a math problem just by seeing it? No, you have to take instructions first. And after the instructions, then you can see. Now, I see the problem. First you heard, and it's thought. The process of whatever deduction or induction, whatever you think you got going. And then there's reason. Then you look at it and then you try to solve problems. And then you get I have an idea. That came internally. That wasn't external. So Lord Brahma is creating an entire universe based on what he heard. He followed the instruction, and then things manifested henceforth. So it's I get a little bit more into this. It says, except for the service of the Supreme Lord, whatever he wants is called illusion, Maya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Javer Swarupahaya Krishna Nitya Das. Every living entity is an eternal servant of the Lord. This is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 2108. Therefore, when one engages in the service of the Lord, he realizes the highest perfection of life. A faithful servant can fulfill any desire by the grace of the Master. And one who engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord has nothing to aspire for separately. All his desires are fulfilled simply by engaging constantly in the Lord's loving service. Lord Shiva showed us that any devotee can be successful simply by chanting prayers which he has recited. So this is getting back to, well, I don't want to deal with Krishna because I have envy. I'm envious of Krishna. So let me prostitute the demigod, right? I'll do some nice service or sacrifice, impress them. We've had the example of Hiranyakasipu doing so much sacrifice, and look at the same personality, different pastime, We have uh, gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Ravana. So Ravana is a great devotee of Lord Shiva. And Mother Parvati is wondering, why aren't you helping your devotee? He's being annihilated. And Shiva says, what can I do? That's a pretty person. I can't supersede that power. I'm a subordinate, a loving subordinate. So we have to understand that as easy as it is to desire something else, it's just as easy. When I say something else, I mean something other than Krishna, something other than that which is connected to Krishna. And we're so loyal to Maya. We're very loyal to Maya. We can be defeated thousands upon thousands of times, and we'll still try it again. We have situations where we play the lottery. We don't win. But as soon as the lottery becomes, what is it now? Almost $500 million. No, it's over $500 million. Then we get a fever. Hey, that's a lot of money. Maybe you have a chance. So Krishna is encouraging you to cheat yourself. Yeah, go ahead and spend another dollar. And if you do win, the history shows that people who win the lottery, massive amounts, they don't live long. They're generally killed by their own family members, or they commit suicide because they don't have the karma, the karmic responsibility. They lack. So it becomes disaster. So what is the best use of resources like that or that much? Is to engage in Krishna consciousness. Once you say, okay, I'm going to mirror after and follow the footsteps of a previous acharya, Maharaj Ambarish, right? He could do all 9 processes. He was very renounced. He wasn't attached to his wealth. He actually gave it up. So we can be in that same venue when we get to things, because guess what? If Krishna's giving, he says, well, you put this, put that there, and do this, build that, create this, you'll have something very nice. Very, very nice. You'll be like that heir in the king's house, right? You know, what Prabhupada uses the analogy that a servant of a king lives almost as good as the king. I'll sign up for that. I don't have to like, hey, I'm independent, I got my own thing. You know, just live in the king's house. Guess what? We're living in the king's house. We live in the king's house. We won't inherit it, right? We don't have to. Why would I want to take on those responsibilities and I get all the benefits? I can use my father's car. I can sleep in the room adjacent to my father. I can drink from his cup. I can eat from his plate. I have access to everything my father has. So that should be our mentality associated with our surrender, as Krishna says. Now, there's also this word ichati also corresponds to wishes, desires, wishes. And you'll find in the database that the different synonyms for ichati. Desire is one of them, and then wishes is another. So it also says in the translation of Srimad Bhagavatam 330.5, I'll just give the translation. It says the conditioned living entity is satisfied in its own particular species of life, while deluded by the covering influence of the illusionary entity. He feels little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for his for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. Now here's an example of that, is that because of the offenses that Lord Indra was engaged in, he ended up being a pig. So when he exhausted the time necessary for him to have recovered from that offense, Lord Brahma went to go retrieve him. He says, okay, your time's up. We can go back. He says, no. Things are nice here. I have a wife, I have children, I have stool I can eat. I have all these nice things. I have family. Why would I want to give up my family? So this is you become satisfied in the species that you're in, right? This case, human species. We have disdain for any other species, except maybe demigods, right? Just think, I'm a demigod and I don't smell. I don't age. So when the demigods see us, they go, wow, what was that pastime when Arjuna was in the Indra's abode and other demigods were saying, it smells like humans. They were appalled by that. So we become satisfied with the species that we're in because we become deluded by material energy. That's how powerful it is. So we have to give ourselves a little bit of pass when we become a little bit judgmental on others, and particularly some of the things that have happened in the United States this week. A lot of people have a lot of opinions, but again, that's Maya. Even with the devotee, Maya will do whatever to allure the devotee in low-grade oil. When I say low-grade oil, it's already been used, right? What is it? Punyaha, chararitam, charnadavam. Again and again, chewing the chew. Here's used oil. It can't be used in your car, and it has no practical purpose. So we have to be careful about the Maya trap, right? Maya leaves all these human traps. They're not bear traps. They're human traps. Sometimes they're devotee traps, because as long as you're in the shelter, you can't be touched. So we have to think about how we waver sometimes from where we should be. And I'll just mention this and take some questions. I don't know how much time I need, but I'll just read this a little bit. It says that it is said that once Indra, the king of heaven, was cursed by his spiritual master, Brihaspati, on account of his misbehavior, and became a hog on this planet. After many days, when Brahman wanted to recall him to his heavenly kingdom, Indra. Now, I didn't read the purport, so I kind of talked about it, so it was kind of like, wow, I dropped right into that pastime. So we can understand that even being a demigod, or there are seen, we can see all these different personalities. They become impacted by ahankara vimudatma. They become bewildered by the material energy. But Krishna is always saying that dukkhalayam sasana, this world's miserable. That's the biggest truth. And Lord Chaitanya is even saying the only thing that's wonderful in this world is the Maha Mantra. So if we want to be beneficiaries, we have to stick in the transcendental. And then connectively, try to see as things are. Narakastopi deham vai nagumas taktum ichiti. There's that word ichiti. Tarakyam nirvato satyam devamaya mohitaha. So I just read that. I'll just do it again. Because the conditioned living entity is satisfied in its own particular species of life, while deluded by the covering influence of the illusionary energy. He feels little inclined to cast off his body, even in hell, for he takes delight in his hellish enjoyment. That's the conditioning center that this material world is. It's a conditioning center. And if you are in the court of Yamaraj, the Yamadevas, they're also agents to condition you so that you can be prepared for your next life. Because otherwise, psychologically, again, I use the example of I win $1 million, and now I don't know how to use it because I'm not under the right conditions. So you have to recondition. So what we're doing is not a recondition, but an unconditioned. We use that word unconditional. So we're unconditioning out of the condition of matter. We don't want conditions, we want constitution, right? You can repeat that. We don't want conditions, we want constitution, because that's our truth. Are there any